The land, no more broken heart, abandoned and alone. God will separate the right from wrong. Then we'll be changed in a moment, caught up in the twinkling of an eye. A day is coming, there'll be no war. Peace will take over the land. No more broken heart, abandoned and alone. God will separate the right from wrong. Then we'll be changed in a moment, caught up in the twinkling of an eye.
Is my mic on? I think my mic is on. Hey, Lifelines. Thank you for tapping in with Life with Lizzy. I'm Lizzy, right here at Believe Radio, your 24-hour inspirational and gospel music station. I say it every week. You got to believe in something. You might as well believe in us. Child, while you're here, do me a favor. Tag a neighbor, call a friend. Yep. Tell them Lizzy is in and she is ready to talk life. I want to say thank you like I do every Saturday. Thank you for hanging out with your girl. You guys are showing up. You are hitting that inbox. You are telling me, Lizzy, we like doing life with you. And I am absolutely glad that you are. If you have not hit me up and you have not sent me an email, what you waiting on, child? BelieveRadio.lifewithlizzy@gmail.com. You heard me? Believe Radio lifewithlizzy@gmail.com. Go ahead, drop me a note. Tell me something good. Listen, even if you say, you know what, Liz, I want to come to the show and talk life because I believe what I've been through, my life lessons, the world should hear about it. And guess what? You might just go ahead, get that green light. But listen, you guys, I don't want to bore you, hold you hostage, or any of those things because today's show is phenomenal. I have to put this disclaimer out here because we are getting ready to have a conversation about grief. Mhm. And I want you to stay tuned because this conversation is going to alter the way that we see life and we experience those that are experiencing life. I want you to stay tuned because I want to bring to the Life of Lizzy table none other than Candace. Candace, welcome to Life
Okay.
with Lizzy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love that intro, and you gave me life with Lizzy and life right in that moment. So good for you. Look at you.
Thank
I was
you.
okay. Good job. That's what we
Thank
doing.
you. Yes, yes, yes. Listen, do me a favor. Lifelines, she is in the building. I'm going to need y'all to show
I'm
her
in the
some love.
building.
Right there in the comments, say, hey, Candace. Go ahead, type and say, hey, Candace.
Hey,
Listen.
everybody.
Listen, I am so grateful for your yes on
Okay.
today because I do a show and we talk about life. And oftentimes when we see shows like this, it's always, that show where, oh, okay, it kind of takes you away from reality. But what I want to do this day is help us walk through life and the realities that come. Some things hit us and it kind of like knocks us to the floor. And I call you one of my strong friends because at some point in this conversation, you're going to share with us a level of strength that I'm sure you didn't know that you had until you had to tap in it.
Absolutely.
But before we get there, tell us, who is Candace?
Oh, who is Candace? That is a great question. Um, Candace is that Whitney Houston song, "I'm Every Woman." Sometimes I feel like Candace is every woman,
And it's
right?
all in me, honey.
One-
Yeah.
Then she did. So usually, I when I talk about me, sometimes I do talk about my other personalities that I am familiar with, that
Mhm.
we get along with each other, we know each other. So there's different aspects of me, right?
Right.
I can um be soft and
Mhm.
sensual. I can be aggressive and
Mhm.
you know just many things. So whatever the situation calls for, that's me. So I'm probably every woman.
So in essence, she's a cup, y'all. So whatever life is pouring, baby, that's what she taking,
Okay,
honey.
we'll
Sip
take a
slow,
cup.
honey.
We'll take a cup.
So let's take a cup. Whatever life is pouring, she can pour it back out.
There
I
you go.
also heard that Candace was a creative.
Absolutely. So I've been doing writing and spoken word and performing like for years and years and years. It got put on the back burner for a while, and so lately, within the past couple of years, I've been kind of doing a bunch of stuff. I've been performing, doing spoken word. I've been producing shows. I've been writing. I have a couple books pending. Well, at least one for sure. And I've been in the studios working on finishing up a poetic CD, which is kind of like a mixed media between poetry, spoken word, and music. So all
Wow.
these things I probably started long time. I wish I could have finished them back then, but as I tell everybody, it's never too late to be you, right?
I
It's
like
never too
that.
late to be who you was meant to be. So
Wow.
everything was on pause, but now we on that go button. I didn't
Yes.
press play, so we moving. So I'm doing everything.
Wow, that's Florida. We taking no prisoners. We holding nobody hostage.
No mercy.
No mercy. I like that. You said there's never a time. Say that one more time.
It's never too late to be you.
Never too late to
Never
be
too
you.
late to be you.
Lifelines. It is never too late to be you and to show up and be the authentic you. I have this saying around here. We say it every weekend, 12 o'clock, every Saturday, 12 o'clock noon, right here, because the best you is the healed you.
Is it noon right now? What time is it?
Listen,
12 o'clock?
it is.
Did we miss
Is.
it?
Listen, in the middle of the day, we show up as our authentic self.
Okay,
I
I
heard
like
you
that.
say that. Thank you, chat. I heard you say that you are writing a book. What I'm sure that is a level of creativity. What has fueled that pen to start writing?
Um, so it's one of those things where again I've been doing writing and stuff for a long time, and I've been writing since probably I was in elementary school, right? Writing poetry, writing little pieces. And I remember watching Sister Act 2 with Whoopi Goldberg when she was talking to Lauren Hill. And she was like, um, if you get up in the morning or something and all you feel is writing, and that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? So
I thought you was about to hit me if you want to be
oh,
somebody.
then there's
But
that too,
okay, I'll
right?
let
Right.
you have that
But
one.
she was trying to, tell her like, man, if this is what you're supposed to do. So even though I used to write all the time, I never really considered myself like a writer, but it's just been something consistently writing stories, all this stuff, all this time. So I initially got inspired because I was just writing my poetry pieces. Music was my first love, so I used to write music, write songs. And like I said, some life started happening, and a lot of these things got put on the back burner. So I would just write whenever I got inspired. And eventually, over time, when you're consistent with it, you end up writing your book without even knowing you wrote a book.
Listen,
So that's
honey,
how the first one came about.
child, she done gave us the keys to the kingdom. She said, when you are consistent with a
Consistent.
thing, you already write your life story.
Look
Child,
at
come
you.
on.
Okay.
I love it. I love
Look
it. Oh, we
at
do
you.
life around
Okay.
here. We
I like
listen.
that.
Because listen, life will tell you. Life will, if we
Okay. Right.
listen, you my strong friend, honey.
Oh,
Strong people drop jewels and don't even know it because this is just what we do. It's
right.
nothing that we put on, it's just who we are. Now, you say you're writing this book. Now, I got the 411. Is it okay if I share the name of the book?
Absolutely.
Listen, y'all, she told me, pull up. It's
Cool.
called The Color of Grief. Where did that come from?
Ooh, so The Color of Grief is a personal book that I started writing maybe, I don't know, definitely a couple of years ago. And it came about because I was in therapy for a situation that I had been through. So we're going to talk about the situation now.
Sure. Let's go for
So
it.
back in 2006, my house caught on fire. And in the process of losing my house, I actually lost three of my children at the same time, right?
Wow.
Very, very traumatic, very difficult time. So I was on pause for a long time, not knowing where I was coming or going, if I was crazy, my sanity. I was all over the place. I was young. I didn't really know what to do with these feelings, these emotions. I didn't know how to prepare. And at the time, even when I was seeking help, um, nobody really knew how to help me because the story was just so unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nobody had really experienced things like that. So I had to kind of turn inward. I started doing my own research to try to help myself out. And in the process, I started going to therapy. And one day we were doing art therapy, and I drew this rainbow. Right, so it's all the colors of the rainbow, but in my rainbow, black was underneath each color.
Wow.
Right, so you got red, but it was black underneath, yellow, black underneath, blue, black underneath. So in my therapy session, the black represented that even though when um, the skies are clear and people seem happy and life is going and you think they're doing okay, that grief is always there.
Wow.
Right, it's always there. It's there on your good days, it's there on your bad days, it's there when having a ball and life looks grand, and it's there when you at your lowest. So that was my interpretation of the color of grief. So it can look beautiful, like grief can look really beautiful, but it has its own it has its stages and it has its
Yeah.
colors.
I like that. First of all, I think that is amazing that for something as traumatic as what you experienced, that you were still able to see color and you didn't see life in black and white.
Well, that didn't come until later,
Got
right?
it.
Initially, I didn't see nothing. I didn't even think I had a future. I didn't know what my future looked like, right? You're a parent, you have children, that's all you know, right? And it's one thing to people can lose their houses in a fire. You figure everything that you've created or accumulated over all these years, everything that's precious and important to you, you keep in your house, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the children out of it, right, I lost everything that was important to me in my house, their clothes, their pictures, all that stuff, and that is grief in
Itself.
itself, right?
Wow.
People are traumatized when they lose their homes,
Yeah.
however the situation. So then you add the kids on top of it. So, I mean, my color again didn't start until over 10 years. I probably did the first 10 years, probably on autopilot.
Right. Can you
Um,
tell us what that was like? Do you remember?
yeah, I remember bits and pieces. It was a lot of going through the motions and really having to wrap my head around what I was going through, right? Because it's kind of hard to put it in words. It's kind of hard to express. Even when you're talking to people, they can't really relate. So as much as people may think they want to empathize or sympathize with you, they just can't. So it's really like it's a lonely, lonely place to be. I learned a lot about myself. Um, and you're right. You mentioned that earlier. Sometimes where you don't know how strong you can be until you end up in that situation. And I definitely didn't want to be that strong. I
Right.
would have gave
Right.
it back a long
Right.
time
Right.
ago. You could
Right.
have kept
Right.
all that
Right. Right.
strength, but it was just a daily process. And like I said, my mental state was kind of in and out. Some days I would wake up and it felt like it was all a dream, and I couldn't. My brain could not comprehend that had happened to me, and I would be like, "Did I even have children?
Right.
Like,
Wow.
did I even live? Because my whole
That was
reality had changed, right? My whole life had changed. So
so for those strong friends that are tapping in, is it okay? Would you tell them to give their self permission to look for colors again, to be okay with the process of life happening again and moving forward? That or can is that even something that you can say that because I hear people say, well, it gets better with time, and I find that hard to believe. I believe that it's a process and your life adjusts over time, but does it get better?
I think emotionally, for me personally, it gets better. But I tell people that a lot of times it also depends on your life before this happened, right?
Talk about that.
When you do things the right way, right? I loved my children the best way I could. I did everything I could for them. So when I lost them, I didn't have any regrets. Now I may have regretted going to work that day, right? And what happened during that day, but everything up until that day, I did everything I was supposed to do. So it wasn't like I was a parent holding on to because we got into an argument, or because I didn't tell them I loved them, or, I don't have all those issues and those regrets. So grief is going to be different for everybody, depending on what your life was before the event happened, right? This was suddenly. I went to work, seeing my kids in the morning, went to work. I got my day planned, doing this, doing that. It was nothing out of the ordinary, right? Nothing different. And then, let me see, I left for work, let's just say, I think around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and by 7:30 they were dead. So you're within a 4.5 hour period, right? My whole life changed. Now, um how do you make it through something like that, right?
Right.
One of the things I realize is that I tell people how wonderfully made we are,
Wow.
right?
Talk
How
about that.
we are made. So Jehovah put a pause
Mhm.
on my mental, on my emotional, and he allowed me to process this in pieces, right? That's the only way I was able to get through it, because if it would have just came to me like all at once, I probably would have broke down my memory. I mean, less
Yeah.
insanity would have been my
Insanity.
plea, right?
Right.
But it was given to me in pieces. I was allowed to process this in pieces on my own time, in my own way, and it allowed me to take it day by day and not lose myself in the process. Some people lose their children, they can't have kids again.
Yeah.
I was blessed that I was still young enough that I could have children again if that was an option that I chose.
How old were the babies? How old were your children?
2, 4, and 9. So
Two, four,
very
and 9.
young, very in the fun stages of loving life, getting to know them. I used to complain all the time because I was a stay at home mother. And at the time, staying at home was kind of like old people back in the day. I don't want to call
What
y'all
I'm
old,
trying
not
to
like that.
do. What I'm trying to do.
Not like old back in the day, but
Right.
it just, women wasn't getting a lot of credit, right,
Right.
for
Right.
staying at home. It's like you need to be at work.
Right.
But
Right.
I was just like, man, I'm at home,
Mhm.
3 kids, my husband working on it, and that was something that we had agreed upon. But I was so grateful for that and that opportunity that I had a chance to be with my baby every day,
Right. Right.
right, day in and day out. So I got a chance to raise them from start to finish. So there was always blessings in disguise sometimes, and we don't see it. I went through a lot, like, wanting to be work, wanting to be independent, have my own money, not wanting to depend
Talk
on
about
nobody.
that. Hmm.
And these ladies came to me in a grocery store, and they said, "Don't let nobody ever tell you um, that being a stay-at-home mom is not a job." She was like, "That's a 24-hour job, no
Child.
breaks, no nothing. If you do it the right way,
Yeah.
it is one of the hardest jobs you can ever do.
Yeah. No sick time.
No
You
sick
always
time,
on duty. Right.
always on call,
Right. Always on.
everything."
You said something that I thought was phenomenal. You said I was young enough. Now I do know, because I do know you, that your oldest baby, you had her when you were young.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
I'm sure that relationship, have did you ever kind of think about that relationship? Because I know probably when you got pregnant, you probably regretted it, but as
Hmm.
time went, you were grateful that your your time with her was your time with her.
Um, in a way,
Hmm.
because how we feel is how we feel. I never expected to be pregnant at a young age. I
Hmm.
seen it, but I didn't think it was going to be me,
Hmm.
right? So I was very disappointed in myself, and I struggled with her, right? Because I was kind of going against myself. I was 17 turning 18, and trying to be a parent and dealing with other things that were going on in my life,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So it was a lot to take on at one time, and eventually I came around, but it was difficult for me because I had sacrificed my whole life in a sense for her, right? Changed everything, my outlook, what I wanted to do. Because even at that young age, I wanted to get into acting. I had started going to the studio, doing my music. So, but once she came along, I just felt like she didn't ask to be here, and I owe her.
Right.
So I changed everything for her. So to go through everything that I went through with her, oh, I'm gonna be a little sad, right?
It's okay. We do life here, y'all.
No,
We
that's true.
lifing. We lifing.
But to go through everything that I went through to sacrifice to her, and then to lose her, there was a time where it felt like I did everything. It was all for nothing, right? Everything I did, all my life choices, all my plans, everything I did, it felt like it was all for nothing, because at the end of the day, that's what I was left with. No children, no house, no clothes. Like I had literally just the clothes on my back. So I couldn't understand what it was all for.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, we always ask why. I was never one of those people who was like angry with God, and I
Mhm.
never went through that phase. But this is something that I haven't told a lot of people, and it's gonna sound really weird. It's always been strange
Mhm.
to me, but
Baby, this life, tell
a
us.
couple of years prior to this happening, I would get this feeling that something bad was going to happen, and I can't
Mhm.
explain it. I would get this feeling that something bad was going to happen. It would come and it would go away. It would come and it would go away, and I didn't know what it was, and I thought that maybe it was going to be me,
Mhm.
like something was going to happen to me, um, and I needed to prepare my children for that, right?
Mhm.
Because it was just a really real feeling. So because I started having this feeling, I started doing things differently with them, right? More, like I said, I was happy now that I was at home with them.
Mhm.
I was teaching my daughter, hey, make sure you protect your brothers. You know what I mean? Like more family stuff. Like I was just taking the time because I was just like, man, I don't know what's gonna happen, but something's gonna happen to me eventually, and I want to prepare them the best way I can.
Right.
So in the night that happened, I knew right then that this is what that
What that
feeling
was.
was up to all that moment. So I guess that's just to say, um, you know, I was fortunate that I did everything I knew to do right
Mhm.
beforehand, which
And
you
let,
should
and
do
let me
anyway.
say this. You were and is an amazing mom. Like you are like the dopest. I know you made mention that you have after those sweet babies, you now have two more.
I do. I have two more.
Wow. What was
Absolutely.
that like?
Um, Another struggle because I
Mhm.
didn't know what type of mom I would be. I didn't know if I would ever be ready. Societal, when you're going through things, sometimes you have to shut people out, right? Because everybody's like, oh, you should have more kids and
Mhm.
you should do this and all this stuff. And I had only one person who I love to this very day. He was the only person who said to me, Candace, your job as a mother is done. You don't
Yeah.
have to have any more kids. You don't have to feel guilty about anything. Like if you want to live your life
Mhm.
single and or whatever, he was like, man, you have that right to do that, right? But it was so weird. Again, you're a mother. This is all you know.
Right.
All my children, not all my children, but all my friends had kids. We all had kids
Kids.
around the same
Right.
time. So to watch them with their kids and I don't have mine was
Mhm.
difficult.
Mhm.
Um,
I bet.
to meet people and they would be like, oh, so young and you don't have no kids because everybody had
Right.
kids. So to meet people and they'd be like, oh, you don't have no kids yet? You know what I mean? If I
Mhm.
just told them I didn't have kids, that was like a shock. So I had to deal with
Right.
that. Not that I told them my story, it was just be
Right.
like, no, I just don't have kids. And they'd
Right.
be like, oh, do you not want none? Or,
Right. Right.
so I had to deal with so many different aspects and so many
And
different
sometimes
angles.
people have no clue what people
Right.
go through because to look at you, you would never know that you walked through that level of fire. Like,
Absolutely.
and was there ever a moment where you felt like, let me just go on and share with them so they would stop talking to me? Or was it just like you just removed yourself?
No, very few people that I felt comfortable with. I may have mentioned it to them, but it wasn't something for everybody because, as detrimental or as harrowing as it may sound, again, a lot of people is going to go right over them. They're not going to be able to empathize. It's going to be a story that they heard, and it's going to be something they forget the next day,
Mhm.
right? So, I just, some people I just, I don't have any
Mhm.
kids and I may have some, I may not, and that would be it. But people who were consistently in my circle that, I was probably building some type of relationship with, if it came up here and there, then I would, kind of explain and go through some details a little bit, but not much.
I have some friends, a couple of friends that have just recently lost their children. Can I give you the next minute to just share anything, the first thing that comes to your mind? What would you share with them?
That give yourself time because in the beginning you feel like this pain is going to last forever, that there and you don't see nothing else beyond it. It almost consumes you, the grief, the pain, the hurt. It almost consumes you that you don't see nothing else. But here I am 18 years later, and I still struggle sometimes, not every day. My son's birthday was just 2 days ago, right?
Right.
I think,
I
or
saw your
yesterday
post. Yeah.
yesterday or the day before. So
Uh-huh.
I still struggle. um, but it did get easier, and again, it's different for everybody,
Right, right.
but it's not the end. It's not the end all. Like,
Hmm. So
better days are coming.
better days are coming. So life. Do you see life in different lenses now?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I had stuff in my house that had tags on it because I was waiting for special occasions and holding on to this and whatever.
Wow.
After I lost everything, material things mean nothing to me, right?
Hmm.
Because they can be gone in an
Come on,
instant,
talk about that.
right? So now
Hmm.
I base my life and I live my life with experience, right? I experience life. I bring my children into the fold and we experience life together because those are the things no one could ever take away from you. As much as I felt was taken away from me, my time spent and my memory with my children are the only things that will outlast me, right? Or last this lifetime with me. So that I press that and I push that so much that, man, life is for the living, right? We got to live, and just do the best you can, make conscious decisions every day. Um, but yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Being a mother, I still struggle with if I'm doing the right thing, if I did the right thing, bringing my children into the world, knowing that I was in such a, I don't know, emotional state. When I had my daughter, I was in therapy still. I was in like another form of therapy, and at the time, even the therapist thought that I shouldn't have her because she was, I guess there's something like your emotions can
Hmm.
get put on the
Transfer
child or
over.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So she didn't tell me that,
Right.
but indirectly it was just like maybe. But then I was having a conversation with a woman who had never had children,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of
Right. Right.
it was kind of like, okay,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
easier said than done, but
Hmm.
it's not nothing that I didn't think about. But yeah, I thought about a lot, like if I did the right thing, bringing them into this world and you know not living in fear, right?
Talk about like you just yeah, that was going to be my next question about the fear factor of moving forward.
Oh, it's definitely hard because my I was at work, right,
Hmm.
and I go to work, right,
Right.
so
Right.
I still have to leave and separate myself from my children, right, as
Ever
a
go through like separation
oh, I
anxiety?
used to go through that a lot, but I never told anybody, and I really coached myself through it because they are here. They know nothing. They know a little bit about their previous siblings, but not a lot. We haven't had an in-depth conversation about it because I do not talk about it a lot at all.
Hmm.
Rarely do I talk about it, but so they're just here to live, right?
Right.
They
Right.
want to have fun. They want to be
Hmm.
teenagers and they want to be young, and they just want to enjoy life. So I had to make sure that I didn't impose my fears on them. These are two totally different people.
That's why I think you the dopest.
There's a two totally different people. They're two
Right.
totally individuals, and the freaky thing though, which tripped me out, was my son looked just like his
I
brother.
was gonna ask
Yeah.
you. I was gonna ask you. Do you see them?
Not anymore, but when they were around the same age coming up, people used to mistake Avery for Jeremiah, or people would look and accidentally call him his name, and they looked so much similar that I was actually looking at an old photo, and he was like, "Hey, mom, where was I at? Where
Wow.
I don't remember this. Is that me? Where was I?" Like
Wow.
they looked
And he
so.
didn't realize that that was him.
He didn't realize that that wasn't him, but they looked
Wow.
so
Whew.
similar. So imagine having, a child, a son that looked like your previous son, almost identical, which I would have never expected because they have two different fathers,
Right.
right? Two different
Right.
genes, two different fathers. So that is like one of those things that nobody could prepare me for, right?
I I I think God is gracious.
Absolutely.
I think He's gracious that He allows us to just for a moment, be okay. Like I remember um, just having that miscarriage, and then after that, getting pregnant and wondering, like when I look at Shelly, like God this was this who did it was there any features I just often wonder,
Hmm.
and I think he is gracious, that he allows us to keep our emotions, bounce back, and to continue to live and to push forward. um Now I had to, as I began to think about this, I know we're going to wrap it up. I know you had a praying grandmother. And your grandmother was amazing in prayer. Do you ever think like my grandmother's prayers must have really been covering me?
Um, when? Because she would have passed away already.
But you know how our grandparents would pray, like God keep them, even if I'm gone and I'm out of here, whatever. You know, the prayers of your grandmother's house.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes they would cover us. You don't think that at
That
all?
never crossed my
Never,
mind,
never
not
crossed your
once.
mind.
You're not even thinking about that. Like you people, you lose someone, and people's conversations sometimes become annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to keep hearing it's gonna be okay, or give
Right.
yourself like sometimes there's no
Let's
words.
be real right
There's
through
no
here.
words. Yeah,
So no, I
silence
don't.
sometimes. Right,
Silence is the best thing.
sometimes silence is just
Okay.
the best answer, because when somebody's in their moment, like even your greatest, most devoted Christian, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's Christian who believes in God the most. In those moments,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, they may reach
Mm-hmm.
for prayer, but they at that point they reaching for
For
anything.
anything.
But even then, you don't even want to hear that.
Right.
You don't want to hear that he needed another angel. You don't want to
No, I
like
needed
you
my
don't
kid. I don't.
right. You don't
He
all
got
that
enough.
stuff is out the
Right.
window.
Right.
You don't want to hear none of that. So yeah, at the time I was going through that, I couldn't think about nothing else. I was just still again trying to I was partway crazy, like I said, like
Mm-hmm.
literally I was crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really just trying to uh again wrap my I ended up in a psych ward.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was at work, I ended up in a psych ward. Like I was like all over the place, and just still day in and day out trying to wrap my mind around this new reality, and um trying to figure out what I was supposed to do, because I
Right.
had no idea
I
what am
know.
I supposed to do now, you know.
I believe that you are helping somebody that is watching this.
That's the only reason why I came on here today.
And I appreciate that.
That's it.
I totally appreciate your yes, that there is somebody that is watching and they're going to be able to get up tomorrow because you came in here today. And I want to say thank you for sharing your story.
Thank
Um,
you.
this has been amazing. Lifelines, she has dropped some life on us today. She is a example of how to do life when life is
Oh
lifing.
snap.
Um, and she mentioned something like, you know what, therapy, uh, building those relationships again, you know, those people around her that support her.
You got to have a good support system. That's one of the
Mhm.
key things. And therapy don't work if you're not ready for it. Because
Got
I
it.
started going to therapy in the
Mhm.
beginning, and it didn't help me at all,
Mhm.
because I just wasn't ready. Again, I was still going through it. So therapy can work if you're ready for it, and only you know
Wow.
that. And your support system is,
Mhm.
I can't say how important that is. You definitely got to have the right people around you,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
sure.
Listen, y'all, this has been back on for joining me here on the Life of Lizzie show. You are amazing, hun.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Amazing.
Life with Lizzie. I'm going to get my
She said she ready to
viewers.
get her. She ready
Well,
to get.
we gonna upload it so we can get everybody that can see what we're doing here. Believe Radio. We definitely want them to tune in to everything that
Yes.
you got going on
Thank
here
you. That's every Saturday, 12 noon,
every
right
Saturday, because
here.
they can't hear what I can hear in the thing. So
Wow.
every
Well, we gonna make
Saturday,
sure they hit that
12
child because it
noon.
was a show today. It was a show. Hey y'all.
Absolutely.
Well, without further, and I'm gonna stop here. It's not because we ran out of time or ran out of conversation, but I think what she has said thus far, we need to kind of sit in it. Go back, listen to this again. Hit me up. Do me a favor this week. Strong friends.
Strong
Send me those
friends.
letters. Send me those emails. Hit me in my inbox, believeradio.lifewithlizzie, and tell me about the colors of your grief. Well, y'all, until then, it's
That
been
makes the book
real.
sound even better. I love
It's
that. It's
gonna
gonna
be.
be a dope
Listen,
book. I
when
know
that book comes out, let me just go
it's
ahead
gonna
and
be nice.
bring you back on the screen. When that book comes out, I want you to come right here, and we are going to talk about that book. We are going
Absolutely.
to promote that book, and I'm gonna push you until it's actually in my hand, y'all. This has been a time. This has been Life with Lizzie. So until next week, 12 noon, right here at the same time, Life with Lizzie. Believe Radio, your 24-hour inspirational station. I holla.
A day is coming. There'll be no war. Peace will take over the land. No more broken heart, abandoned and alone. God will separate the right from wrong. Then we'll be changed in a moment. Caught up in the